Hey, what is up? So I'm going to go through this Genesis promo real quick. It's called Your Sincerely Sorcerer Veraturum. It was just revealed the other day. It's sort of like a hand trap. So this is the first time that Genesis actually had a Guardian unit that can Soul Blast while placed, besides the Sentinel Secret LC, which means that you can now play this alongside playing Perfect Guards if you want to be able to Soul Blast and use combos during your opponent's battle phase, which is a massive difference for decks like, for example, Fenrir, which had to use LC if they wanted to do the Vanguard HANDTRAP combo, which then meant playing less Perfect Guards. So you can potentially call Vanguard by using this new unit, and then you just end up calling, say for example, Vanguard after you already used the skill for your Guardian. Or you could even do something like the Go On combo that I did a video on a while back, to call Melissa from your hand if you want to do even more field disruption. Although this will be a 2 Can Blast combo if you were to do this, because the new Guardian does have a Can Blast cost. So the new Guardian skill is, when this unit is placed on Guardian Circle, cost Can Blast 1 and Soul Blast 3, choose one of your opponent's rear guards with a stand unit, and your opponent looks at the top of their deck and calls it to the chosen rear guard. They can't use any of the auto abilities from calling either. So bear in mind, you're choosing the circle, so that means that you can get around immunity effects. So we're going to go through a whole bunch of lovely cards that you can basically ruin with this card. So another thing as well is, I've mentioned Regalia. Now Regalia at the moment is the only kind of viable Genesis deck because they banned Taro. So there's no point really playing Genesis outside of outside of Regalia, because it's just not going to be that appealing. There are 2 cards in Regalia. There's Regalified Norn, which when Soul Blasted you can give your Vanguard 5k, although now you've got the V-Series Norn, so by playing this you end up clashing with the new Norn, which is a staple basically right now. So maybe you might consider playing Tex, just to have a bit more ratios of cards that can Soul Blast and give 5k. You've also got the stand trigger as well, which does the exact same thing, giving the Vanguard 5k when it's Soul Blasted, so you can use these as hand traps. When you use your new Guardian unit, the Sorcerer, you can end up with 15k plus power because you Soul Blast 3, if you were to Soul Blast like 3 of any of these 2 cards. Then if we went through the cards that actually fear this Guardian unit, that should fear it, let's go through some of these touchy Kaze units. Sweeper Acro Canto. So this card, it's got a bit of immunity. It can't be triggered by opponent's card abilities, but the new guard doesn't care because it will touch it anyway as long as it's in stand position, because your opponent just calls over it and you're choosing the circle. So you could basically mess up all their equip gauges, you can mess up that power gain, as long as they're not attacking with it first. But even then, if they're using something like Anger Blader, which stands up their units anyway, then they're gonna have to have this exposed at some point during the battle, because they have to attack with Vanguard anyway and stand during that timing. Then you've got Gluttony Nebos, who loves to just free ride off of the equip gauge and not pay any actual costs of retiring units. So this card can also retire equip gauges. So this thing can be basically quite free. So by having this new Guardian, you can mess up Gluttony Nebos. And then there's also Drag Fencer Dagda, because everyone's scared of Morfessa. Morfessa's like probably one of the few leftover strides now that hasn't been banned, that people considered like really up there. So Dagda lets you have an extra extending attack, which is difficult because then you have to deal with Battle Door skills, plus having to then worry about crits and all these extra powers. So what you can now do is you can make it so that Luard with Morfessa can only deal 3 attacks minimum, which means that any other attacks will come off of stand triggers, not off of Dagda. So being able to disrupt Dagda is really good as well. Messes up Morfessa and Luard in general for that matter. You've got Tetra Drive Dragon. So this is quite heavy on, it's reliant on wave. So by doing any sort of slight disruption, you can mess up their ability to achieve this number of attacks. It technically messes up a lot of Aquaforce combos, but I'm just putting Tetra as an example because this one looks especially susceptible. Although this is not me talking as an Aquaforce main, I don't mean the clan, so maybe someone might think there's another card that gets screwed over a lot harder. You've got V-Series Silent Tom, and obviously the similar cards like Divina Yachimata Hiko or Brilliant Witch Popo, which do similar things. So anything that can do guard restrict. Basically, swing with these sort of cards first is a way to technically counter the Guardian, but a lot of OT players, they do rely on drive checking first to then give triggers. So if they were to swing with, say, Ichikishima, then that's your opportunity to use the Guardian, and then you just pop off their guard restricts. Another thing it can also do is that because it forces the call off the top of the deck, you can also disrupt any sort of crit stack that the opponent's set up. So it's very effective as OTT. The best way for an OTT player to counter this is to rely on cards like Kuroi Kazuchi and just attack with the rear guards first. And of course, on the topic of disrupting the top card stack, here's WakaHiro as well, who's become a bit famous for stacking over triggers. And on the topic of messing up guard restricts, Hamilto is also an interesting one because just like with OTT, technically you can just sack your triggers before you swing with any units. That way you can technically have a Hamilto that attacks without the Vanguard ever attacking to provide triggers. So that again, Angel Feathers can counterplay. But that being said, the grade 1 can still be used against Angel Feathers. The only difference is that Angel Feathers actually have a bit of a counter with Hamilto because they could technically just sit on Gavriel or use their other rescue skills to then provide triggers and just swing and rely on that on its own without the drive checks. Then you've got Skull Dragon. So Skull Dragon, very strong card. So the new grade 2 sorcerer can just bypass having to deal with massive numbers by just popping one of these Skull Dragons when your opponent attacks. And then you've got also Grenache, who needs to be on the field and killed by Hollow to get the counter charge too. So you could corner their resources by doing this, by targeting this card. So Grand Blue can get messed up quite a bit. Daikai, this is probably one of the ones that get affected the least because it's very easy to counterplay. You just attack with Daikai first and just have it in rest position. But if your opponent wants to attack with the Vanguard first for whatever reason, then you can catch him off guard and make it so that the front row rear guard skill can get popped during the guarding step. And when that happens, that means then your opponent can't really do any of that damage burn. You've got Dark Bless Angel, who basically calls another Revenger when it's retired for the costs. So if you kill Dark Bless Angel, then you can make it so that they can't Raging Form spam you as much. And of course, there's Raging Form V-Series, which is going to be a popular card soon. One of the ways you can counter this, which is a bit more by blind luck actually, is if you just retire one of their Revengers and force them to call a card on top, and then just happens to not be a Revenger, which is more likely the case in V era, or Premium era even, because people are playing a lot of triggers that aren't Revengers or subclan based, so you can catch cards like this out more easily than back in G era. And then you've got Enigmatic Assassin, because it helps with the No Life King combo, so if you can target Assassin, which is quite easy because they just call it when they declare their battle anyway, and then you can just pop off the Enigmatic Assassin, and just like that, No Life King can't use its skill twice now. So you can really nerf NLK with that. Talented Rhinos. This is a popular target for restanding via Crown Tiger and all his friends. So by popping this guy at any point, except when Rhinos attacks obviously, because he'll be in rest by then, but any other point, you can literally just get rid of their main card that they may have used combos to consolidate power to, or that they're planning to restand with multiple Crown Tigers and things. And then you've got, of course, the Crown Tiger. Another thing as well, though, is one weakness of Grenache is that Managama, the new Premium Collection one, is very popular. So they will tend to swing with that one first because they want to try and get all those drive checks and give the powers and the effects over to the Rhinos. And in doing so, they make themselves exposed to then retiring the Rhinos, basically. Although, if you were to use the Guardian as Managama's attacking, technically they could just give the triggers elsewhere. But then there are other opportunities that come later, like for example when the Crown Tigers attack, you can even use the Guardian then, because Crown Tiger on attack does stand the unit. So when it does do that, you can just instantly pop that card, the Rhinos, making Crown Tiger just pay CB1 for no reason. And then you've got Shandy, the Stride, who relies on Harmony, so you can disrupt the Harmony state in some way, which could then help you get rid of the crit that she gains, or to make it so that Shandy calls less units. You've got CEO Idracil, who cannot be protected in any way. Angelica can't save her from this card, so you can just force a call over, and if you force a call over CEO Idracil, say they happen to have just enough for you to be able to actually get rid of, then you just get rid of the boost ability, and then Norn does nothing, can't restand anything. You can even go after the V-Series Norn as well. It depends really on the situation, how your opponent's board is set up. And then you've got Ultima. You're disrupting the stack, so you can mess up the potential trigger they put on top. Maybe they might be a bit smart and bluff by putting a normal unit on top, but either way, they can't guarantee 2 triggers now, can they? So there's a benefit there. You can also make it easier to then guard against big numbers, especially when you're having to deal with annoying decks like Ezel, who also play Providence Angel, by the way. So Providence Angel makes it even more unguardable. And then you've got Zoa, who does provide immunity to the rearguard that gets the instant kill ability, but you can force a call over that as well. So you can make it so that Zoa does absolutely nothing and just burn their G-Zone for no reason. So all in all, this card helps Regalia the most, because Regalia is the only real viable deck at the moment in Premium, and it is fairly easy to fit in. The only downside is that the Soul Blast cost is quite heavy, so you may have to skip out on using like GB3 Minerva, but I'd say it's worth it just to have control over your opponent. Even if you're just swinging 4 drive, 3 drive, it's fine because Regalia is deadly enough as it is with Idracil or Norn anyway. So I think it probably helps the deck more, if anything, having this dangerous control. So I'd say the new promo definitely elevates Regalia. And I'm saying this based on observation without testing, of course. But I think that is what would happen. I think it will be a popular card to play in that deck. And the Can Blast isn't that big a deal either. I wouldn't be too excited, to be honest, as a Genesis player for this card, just because, oh my god, we've got something broken. They just banned like the best card in Genesis, so which has been around for many years. So chances are, if people start complaining about this card, this new Guardian card, it's probably going to get banned too soon. So, you know, just don't get your hopes up that this is a card that's going to be permanent in your clan forever. Anyway, that being said, I think that's about it. That's basically my breakdown on the new card. Until then, I'll see you around later. Goodbye.